Okay, let's start with a little grounding. So just find your comfortable position. It doesn't have to be straight. It can be straight though. Take a deep breath into the nose and a long, relaxing sigh. And then repeat that another time. Inhale long and sweet and deep. And exhale, relaxing. And one last. Inhale, soft. Exhale, relax. Then also relax the muscles in your face, especially the jaw. And get aware of the rest of your body, meaning everything underneath your head. Getting aware of the chest, the body, the trunk. The limbs and the hips. And know that this is already a quite advanced yogic practice. Just this simple thing of getting aware of this body. There's a natural movement of the mind to come back up into thoughts and mind and story. That's all right, just relax, so you also get aware of the body. The best place to do anything actually is a relaxed state of body and mind. So let's chant an Om together to start this session. If you want, join in. Otherwise, just listen and let the sound wash over you. And if you lost that connection to the body, find it again, find some sensations. And simply allow everything to be as it is. That is another and our second practice for today, just allowing all the parts of you to be like they are right now. I'll start with our Satsang talk and open the space for a little bit of questions or discussion a little bit later. So you can stay with closed eyes and use it as a meditation, or you just open the eyes and join the room and follow intellectually. That's all right too. There's another practice in yoga called bhava, which you can use to listen without trying to understand it. I think I want today talk about what it means to actually connect to oneself. And not only that, also how to connect in a true, loving way. And want to distinguish that from self-improvement. So maybe I start with the second part. There's this trend, I believe, to improve ourselves to the better version of ourselves. Become the best version of yourself. Kind of all those things. And it is helpful at some parts and some moments in life. And in general, it's great to work on oneself because it can lead to growth and to more joy and more whatever, aliveness, fullness in your life. But there's a little pitfall in this teaching or in this trend, because it's never enough. When have you improved enough? And if you really have that as a belief system, I need to improve myself, then you never get out of that spiral. And the connotation is kind of two sides of the same coin. The connotation is I'm not enough how I am right now. So in yogic practice, we want to understand that improvement doesn't happen because something is wrong. Improvement happens for the joy of experience, to create more capacity, to have a more fullness in your life, but not because there's a lack or there's something that is actually broken and needs to be fixed. And if you do improvement, so-called improvement, I would be just shaping into a beautiful version. That's a better description of improvement. Shaping yourself into a beautiful version or supporting your unfolding, much better wording for that same thing or similar. Then we act from I'm all right and I just want to taste another flavor of life, how I could be with more capacity in, name it, more capacity in communicating with my dear, or enjoying yoga asanas postures, or having a good friendship, or an affair, or whatever. So we want to come to a point where we don't act out of the urge that there's something to be fixed. And we have this concept of self-love, and it gets hijacked if we act from the belief, I'm not loved, I need to be loved. How do I do this? It's the same thing like the self-improvement thing. But when we're not at the place where we can see that we are already whole and complete and there's nothing to be fixed, then often it's very difficult. So the mind says, but I'm so broken. So that is a shift, and that's the work in shifting that mindset to, oh no, I'm all right how I am, and I'm still able to work on supporting my unfolding. And the basic teaching how to do this is very simple, and I tell you now. It is an acceptance of all your aspects. And the mind labels some of them as broken and like poor or bad or whatever, but there's still aspects of yourself, and as long as you don't accept them as they are, they will never disappear. What you resist persists. Yeah, so the work starts with accepting the whole range. And the good things are not so difficult most of the times, but for some people they are too hard to accept. So we start with whatever is there, and often the bad things. Just accepting them as they're okay, they're a part of me, and they're here right now. So I witness them. And the practice is simple. It is allowing, letting them flow, and holding space. It's a very simple, how's it called? A formula, you could call it maybe. Allowing what is there. So there's this part my mind says, oh, this is broken, I should be better, this is not right. Let it be there, let it be not all right. Feel it. What is it? How does it feel like? Where does it sit in my body? What does it do with me and my environment and so on? Allow it to be there. And this little part of allowance has already included the realization that it's there, which is a very difficult part actually. So getting aware of it. Allowing it, and then it is allowed to move through you, and that's a crucial part. Sometimes we know it's there, but we don't allow it to be moving through us, meaning feeling it. And that is a very important part. Only if we feel a thing, it has the freedom to, at some point, go or leave or change. Because we let go of the resistance, and then it doesn't persist in a way. It's allowed to flow. But what it means, you walk through it. And then some things don't feel nice because they're old wounds, there's some pains, and there's some I don't want this likes or non-pleasure, discomfort. So, and that has to be embodied, that has to be felt, not in the mind, in the body. So just thinking it is mostly not enough. It means feeling it in the body. Then it's actually integrating. And then it's like a wave. It comes, it has its peak, and it will also subside. And that's a beautiful journey. And then whatever it is, it can become into a experience of aliveness. Meaning, oh wow, that's intense, but wow, I'm so alive and it's so full. And the so-called negative emotions can be beautiful. They're not pleasurable, but they can be beautiful. It's a subtle beauty. It's not like, oh, how beautiful I'm in sadness, or how nice I'm in rage. It's more like, wow, how intense is this life? I'm in rage. And I feel it in my whole body. And then the last phase would be holding space until it's gone, or as long as it's needed. Better wording. And then there is a phase of an empty pause. If you have moved through those phases, it's a phase of empty pause, which has two things. One, opportunity for something new to arise, new experience, something maybe more pleasurable. But also secondly, a moment to connect very deeply to your essence. And that is a yogic teaching from the so-called Krama lineage. Krama, they described over 1,000 years ago, were tantrika yogis. They described there's a sequence how consciousness experiences. And there is the rising of an experience. You can feel something is about to happen. Then there is this happening, the experience itself, the flavor or taste of chocolate, or the feeling of rage, or the whatever. And then there is kind of the peak moment, but then there's the subsiding where it slowly leaves. Often with good experience, we try to cling on, and then we create another mind suffering. And then there is this disappearance where this pause comes, and then there's the golden opportunity to stay in that pause. They call it repose. And that is a moment where the mind is not active and where you're just connected with your so-called pure being, or raw, let's call it raw being. And it's a very beautiful moment because there's no one like the inner, commentator saying like, life should be like this and you shouldn't do like this and blah, 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 and la, la, la. It's just like, I am. And you can practice to extend that pause, that repose. And then there's this new, the new arising, the new urge of a new experience coming. So it's kind of a loop. Yes, and the practice would be also in that pause, in a tantric way, which we teach here mainly, would be to immerse deeper into your body and sense experience as well. Because the tantrikas, they really try to embrace and love everything that is also tangible, like the material world. They don't say this is bad and we should get rid of it. They say embrace it, like feel it, become it, savor it, enjoy the taste of this. Yeah, so that's a slight difference to mainstream classical yoga teachings, which say repose, go into that deep stillness and get rid of the world. It's go into that deep stillness, stay there as long as you want, and if you want, at the same time, go into your senses and this physical world. Enjoy that how it is. It's here to be enjoyed. That's basically the message. So when we come to self-love, to make the loop back, I like to distinguish a little bit between self-care and self-love. So self-care is more the actions you do to support for a more pleasurable, positive experience. Yeah, so instead of beating yourself up because something happened that you disliked, you are soft to yourself. You say like, it's all right. It wasn't a mistake. It's okay, it happened. So speaking kind to you internally, for example, would be one thing. Or giving you a very nice golden bath. You said that early on. A nice experience, like I just remember in Brighton, we were in those floating tubs. You book an appointment, a session for a floating tub. So something nice. You go on a yoga retreat, that would be another thing. If you don't work on your emotional issues. But if you have a nice, relaxing yin yoga class, for example. So pleasurable, nice experience. And that is self-care, and that is super important because we need that to have capacity to also work with the shit and the dark stuff because they need energy and attention. So self-care is very important, but self-care is not improvement, and then normally at least. And then there's self-love, and then we switch for whatever reason to like we have to get better than we are. That is not true self-love. In my understanding, self-love is I accept all the aspects as they are. And it's a very, very small but important distinction. And I'm willing to allow them, let them flow and hold space. The little formula. And then self-love doesn't have a specific, form. It doesn't need to be like, you doesn't need to rephrase your sentences in your head because it still has the connotation, oh, I shouldn't say that. Oh, bad me. So it's a little bit a trap. You can easily get caught because, self-love sounds so beautiful and supportive. But if you, in the sake of self-love, beat yourself up internally, then you missed the point. So self-love is much more subtle and just says, I hold you. And I had this picture just 2 days ago, I'm just remembering now. Maybe you can imagine that for yourself, even maybe close your eyes. Imagine 2 hands that are holding you. Imagine you lie in 2 hands. You can even have those hands in front of you, and you imagine yourself or yourself in those hands, and you hold yourself. You could also imagine like the space is your hands, the space around you, and the space or your awareness holds your experience, everything that is happening inside and outside of you. And those hands, they're unconditionally there all the time, always on your side, no matter what's going on. If you're utterly upset, if you're in love, if you're laughing, if you're in ecstasy, if you're like sad, if you're just neutral or depressed or sick, or they're just there and just holding you. Can you imagine that? And then you imagine how your body can relax into those hands, so all the weight is carried by those hands, or the space that holds you, the awareness. And that would be for me much closer to the word self-love in a true sense. And you can scream and have a tantrum on those hands, and they're still lovingly holding you unconditionally. If you follow that word unconditionally to the very bottom and the basic foundation of its meaning, then you know what's meant by that. There's no condition you have to fulfill. All right. So before I open one more little aspect, hopefully it will come. In that moment when there is some destructiveness, so-called destructiveness, it's still a story from the mind. When we say, oh, that shouldn't be, or I beat myself up, it's still a story that this is wrong. But if there's too much destructiveness all the time, it can be very unbeneficial for your life experience. It sucks at some point. So there is, and it's a natural movement of humans, that we strive for harmony and love. It's just built in. God knows why, probably. And we still want to move out of that, but that's a natural movement. It's nothing that is, it's not part of self-love to move out of destruction. It's what life does. It strives for a more soft, sweet experience of life. That's the natural movement of life. So we want to support that natural movement and not get stuck in a loop of destructiveness. Maybe that was confusing, but what I mean with that is when there's a destructive thought coming and you say, oh yeah, I allow that, and there's another one and you say, yes, I allow that, and then you're kind of creating a new belief system that you have to allow all negativity to be there and beat you time and time again. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of a negative spiral, and you allow that because you have the idea, because someone told you on a yoga retreat, you have to allow everything. You allow again to be beaten up, and then you come into a situation where other people treat you badly, you allow that again, and you allow that, and because I have to accept everything that is here. So that can be another mind story, because that's not what I say. What I say is, you still follow the natural expression of your life, the natural expression of intuition to play out. Meaning, if there's negativity coming and you have the natural urge to move into another direction, maybe have a positive thought, then of course you're allowed to do that. And of course you should even do that. Without a should, but you're naturally doing that. So accepting what is doesn't mean to say, yes, beat me up more. It means if that's happening and your body and your natural unfolding says, I go away from that, then you of course follow and go away from that. Yeah, I have often this example with a hand in the fire. If your hand is in the fire, what is your natural reaction? You pull it out. You don't have to say, I accept that my hand is burning and it's really, really painful, but I have to accept it because, that's the new trend. No, it's accepting that there's the natural impulse of leaving that situation in whatever way. Okay, so that is one more important step to understand when we talk about all acceptance. Follow that inner deep calling from the heart. And that needs a little bit of practice because the mind is so loud and sometimes we don't hear where is the way out of the fire. Yeah? Okay. I think for today, I want to open, the space. If there are any questions or comments or shares, it can be related to what I said. It can be completely unrelated. Feel free to also participate in sharing your wisdom if there's anything you want to let us know.
I think it can be hard to sometimes bit about feel it, you said, so feel it and then have space. I often find myself being like, how much longer
do I have to feel it? So, very important is the distinction if do you actually feel it or do you think it? And if you think it, it can be endlessly and not disappearing at all. If you're actually feeling it, I made the experience that it's a coming and a going. It will go, and maybe it returns at some point, and maybe you have to go through that loop like many, many times. But often, I would even say in most cases, it comes, it is intense, and it goes. And when you stay in the mind, I'm thinking the feeling, then there's often, it's just bothering. It just boils and it never leaves because it's a thought. It's not the whole energy is not there. So sometimes what I would recommend in that case is to feel into the energy of the thought and not the meaning of the thought. Or bring the thought down and say, how would that feel in my body? Yeah. And especially in a tantric teaching, it is so important to include the body. It's the embodiment of that thought. So every emotion has a physical representation. Otherwise, I would argue, it is not an emotion. It is a thought. So if you don't feel it in the body, you're most likely still roaming in the mind. And then the practice is come into your body, come into your body, come into your body. Yeah. Also, in the mind, the energy to digest it in the mind and the space up here is much harder than using the belly, because there's much more energy available. So you can digest. What a coincidence that our digestive system sits here. You can digest here better. More efficient, I would say. Yeah. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Lovely. Any other questions or shares? It can be also a issue you have in your daily life you want to bring up, and we can speak of it.
Mine might be a ramble, but maybe you understand me. It's around like forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, I forgive a lot of people, and I always think I should forgive. And then I'm looking at this saying, I walk through it, I feel it, I hold space for it, and sometimes I'm like, I don't think I rage through it. Maybe I go like too feminine, soft through it, and now I have this list of people I've forgiven, and I'm like, I'm so fucking angry with them all. So now I have to go back through it all over again and do it in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Forgiveness is a little bit of a tricky thing, because sometimes we want to use forgiveness to not feel the feeling that we actually feel for the person. So to like shortcut to like being friends with them again. And we think we can skip that anger or whatever, upsetness, whatever it sits between us, we can skip that by, like I do a forgiving practice. And if you have forgiven actually, if you don't have any anger anymore towards that person or whatever it was. And if you still have, then you're not fully released of whatever energy sits between you guys. And that's all right. You have tried.
I don't think I have anger. I think I don't know, there's just something that I'm like...
Was it a general, like, I don't have anger in general?
Oh, there's a list of people, so it's not just one. And then from all of the people who I've had to forgive, I've had great lessons and the outcome has been so much better. But then there's just something that I feel like I've missed a point.
Oh, yeah, wait. Maybe you missed that point. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Yeah. There can still be the remembrance and still be the rejection of that was not all right. You don't have to accept like this happening was good or whatever, you're fine by doing this. No. The kind of judgment is allowed to be there because it was a learning of like, you stepped over my boundaries and I was not all right. Or my boundaries were not clear enough or something like that. So now you have more clear boundaries with that. That was not all right. And you're also acting in a way of this doesn't happen again. But you still want to, at some point, connect with that person if you want. Otherwise, you don't need forgiveness. If you don't want to connect with them, then...
In Greek, to forgive is synchoro, which means to allow space, is to have also space.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a feisty one sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find it easiest for forgiving to not really forgive in the mental way I understand forgiveness, but more to allow space for whatever I am feeling to be there and that it's okay. And there is an example of someone I was upset with for a long time, like 2 years. And, and they're long gone from our daily life. I don't see them. I have nothing to be upset about anymore. It's like done. And actually, as you said, the outcome of that has brought so much other goodness and joy that even I could be thankful for the pain I had at the time. But it literally took me 2 years of kind of trying to forgive and trying to create that space, but not quite feeling resolved. Just one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? I'm not upset with this person anymore. It just happened overnight. But yeah, I was just trying to create space. And I'm not saying it will work for you. But I liked how just the wording helped me in my Greek brain. So to have space for it too. Well, I'm furious with this woman. She's a cow, you know, like I was.
Yeah, I don't think I have any upsetness with anyone. It's just, I think I forgave everyone in my masculine and not in my feminine, and that's probably what it is. That the inner is like, you shouldn't have let them get away with it.
You need to pay.
You shouldn't have been so nice and forgiving and sending them light and love when you were having a hard time.
I sometimes feel that when I think of situations in my life about it, it's not me forgiving myself for letting someone else cross some borders. It's even more hard to go through than just forgiving the other person.
Yes. Okay, that's a good one, because we're still believing that we could have acted differently in our past than we did, but we couldn't. And if once you have realized that, and there's no benefit of going through it over and over again and thinking that you could change the past, and you do your best anyway. And in most things in life, you're not in control. Sorry to break the news, but there's very little control you actually have. And it couldn't have been any other way. So what only is left is to integrate that part which is upset or rejects that past and say, you are also allowed to be here. Yeah, it was shit. And yes, I see that part of me that finds that shit as well. And you're allowed to be here too. Oh, I hate myself so much. I feel it here. It's coming, you know? Okay. And I love that hate as well. Yeah. We're back at the main topic in that. Self-love. That is supreme accepting. There are communication models which help with those things, especially in the matter of forgiveness. I think, and in my experience, the most effective is to be in one-on-one conversation with that person and telling them what you actually feel. And it has to match the energy that sits in you. And when that's happening, then the outer appearance and the energy of that person, of you or that other person, if they match, then there's an opening from the other person. And then there's also this like almost mystical thing that happens, that you can be expressing your upsetness in the exact way how you feel it, and suddenly the other person is not angry at you anymore, even though you just said bad things, because they suddenly see your true or your very natural being, meaning your appearance and your energy match. And it's often not like that. When we're in conversations, often we hide things and we have those roles and masks, and then we smile, but we are upset at the same time. And the other person sees that and is just confused, because they feel, every person feels the energy of the other person, but they see a different picture. And then the mind kicks in and says, they are smiling. And then the unconscious body knows they're upset. And then you're just confused. And then you keep the friction between you guys. And when there is this honest, authentic encounter of like, that's me and my energy, that opens people. Oh, it can, let's say. And then it can dissolve, and there's no guarantee that anything dissolves, but it can dissolve, and then suddenly there's just harmony again, and you have actually forgiven them. And you can do the same with yourself, where you need to be brutally honest and not trick yourself. But that's a process.
How would you suggest you do that if you can't have the person there?
Well, if that's an actual fact, because this person is gone in whatever way, and you actually cannot reach them, then you have no other chance to imagine them. But you can also become very vivid in that. You can actually have a conversation with that invisible person or whatever. You can have body expression and so on, or you can do it with a coach or whatever, a therapist. Then there's no other way. And still, you also don't have to have the idea that you have to forgive every person in your life. Only then you're an enlightened master at the end of your life. That's another story. You don't need that. Yeah, you can. This world, it's like, try to not step on an ant in your life, or not do harm in your life. It's impossible. It's like the whole conversation about ahimsa. I sense you're a bit more into yoga philosophy also. Don't imagine you can live without hurting or creating suffering in this world. Your pure body existence already does that. You kill cells in yourself every day, millions of them. You step on ants, you kill animals because you eat them, you want to survive, like there are many reasons why we do have an impact. And that's all right too. So don't assume that you have to solve all your karma and that you have to be a
Perfect little girl.
Yes. That's a bullshit story that doesn't exist.
We're learning that now, slowly.
Great. So embody the whole of reality. And if you look out into reality, you see there is not only peace. It's part of it. You don't need to like that, and you don't need to follow the killing. You can still try your best to not do that, but you need to be aware that at times it will happen. Okay, any other comments? And let's close the session with a mantra. Thank you. Close the session with a mantra to Lalita Devi. And just a few words before we start. Lalita, in very short, in this mantra, is the representation of sweet beauty. So we sing later Namastasyai, like we greet, we invite, we say hello. Do you want to join us, Lalita? Meaning, sweet beauty, do you want to enter my experience? Do you want to enter this body? And all the mantras and those so-called, figures in yogic culture, they're only representations of natural principles like sweet beauty or love or hatred or whatever, heaviness, lightness. And we as humans, we just want to bring more of this experience into our experience, or more of this principle into our experience. Meaning, when we chant a mantra, we kind of activate those energies and say, that's what I want to bring more into my life. And it's more like a calling, an invitation. Hey, Lalita, do you want to embody here in this very body? And maybe she wants, and this energy comes. Maybe not. That's all right too. Yeah, so that's the basic translation of this mantra, how I understand it at least. The lyrics are, if you want to join in, Ma. Please repeat after me. Ma Amba.
Ma Amba.
Lalita Devi.
Lalita Devi.
Parashakti.
Parashakti.
Sundari.
Sundari.
That was all the kind of, hey Lalita, come join me with your sweetness and spiritual beauty. Namastasyai.
Namastasyai.
Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha.
I devote to you and to that. Welcome. Namastasyai, welcome. Together. those two hands holding the entirety of you. Without any condition. Holding all aspects. And then sing as you would be those hands holding yourself. Everything is welcome in those One more time, Namastasya. And that you being held by those hands of Lalita Sundari. This you doesn't need to be fixed. It's just an ever unfolding from moment to moment. And you are actually the hands, and you are the you inside those hands. If you want, bring the hands together in front of the heart. Take a deep breath.